Hello, welcome back to another episode of Awakening with Soulspirational. My name is Tish, and here we have another lovely group of people on Soulful Sunday. Today we are going to talk about things without going into specifics. We're going to talk about how life was in the past, and I want to reference that to where we are today, and specifically where I want to go with this is maybe we haven't seen somebody in 20 years. So we may still be looking at that individual as the person that we knew 20 years ago, because we don't know what happened in the last 20 years of their lives, what they've done, how far maybe that they've gone in life. And I think it kind of boils down to not only do we get stuck in that place 20 years ago, that person that we knew 20 years ago, where we can kind of pigeonhole somebody, and I think it also is a judgment, maybe something for myself to stop and think about. Also having things directed at me for things that I'm doing in my life today that people knew, because most people who knew me 20 years ago, I'm very different. So I just thought it would be nice if we took the time to be in the moment, and also really what I want to throw in here too is kind of mixed in, however it opens up within the group. Somebody recently had said to me, a client, about how there's a reason why people do things that are not nice. And do people ever stop and think about maybe why that person is doing something that isn't nice? And for me, I do. But I think that not everybody does. So when we hear about somebody doing something that we see as being wrong, we automatically, not all of us, some of us and not all the time, but we may immediately label the person as being evil, of being just, maybe even irredeemable. Are you guys kind of picking up what I'm throwing out there? And I like to think that everybody is redeemable. So if that's ringing a bell for anybody, if there's anything popping up that you want to share? No? Crickets?
I think you can, redeem yourself anytime that you want. In your introduction you talked a lot about the past, and I think a lot of so-called, bad habits or, things that people do that, we don't agree with, that could be something that they've dealt with their entire life. And then their father or mother before them dealt with that and kind of passed that down. It just, these different things get passed down through generations, whether it's, bad habits or self-destructive behaviors. And I think, as far as what you said, I like that word redeeming. It takes someone to, kind of stop and examine their life almost from a bird's eye view and look at it and look at how those choices are affecting their life and say, no, my past, that was in my past, it's not going to define my present, I'm going to start a new future today. I think you always have that option. If something's not working for you, you can start over and start something new. You don't have to let the choices of the past or the choices of your parents or whatever affect who you are today.
Well said.
Okay.
There was something, I think that also when we can make amends for maybe different, as you said, habits or bad behavior that we look to in the past, when we can say, I did that, I wasn't proud of that, I can understand maybe where I was in the moment, that the behavior was such. But I think that when we deal with it, when we forgive ourselves, or maybe forgive others around us, depending on the situation, that it is easier too. And sometimes I think life stops us to give us that bird's eye view. But it's whether or not we choose to actually take that perspective to look down to say, you know what, maybe this is self-destructive. You know, or we may just say, I don't want to look at the bird. Like, I don't want to be up there with that perspective.
I think it's a really brave act to look at your life from a bird's eye view, you know. That takes a lot of courage because it's so easy to look at it just from one perspective, from your perspective, but to step back and really look at your life as a whole and really take ownership for your own life and the choices that you made. I know in my life with my past, I spent a lot of time blaming other people, like they did this to me, they did that to me. And in one hand that's true, but also on another hand, I was a participant in that behavior. Nobody ever forced me. So I think being able to look at one's life from that fuller perspective, you know, from a relationship standpoint or, you know, from any standpoint and really see your own role in it. I think that's really helped with my own personal healing over the years.
Taking responsibility, because once you take responsibility, I like to say, bless you, that you take, what is your truth? And if you don't like your truth, change what your truth is. So, in reverting it back to the past, if somebody were to approach me and say, yeah, but you blah, 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 well, my truth has been changed. I've worked very hard over the last 20 years to change what my truth is, and by doing that, I had to take responsibility for my actions.
Yeah, speaking about past, is, maybe is opening it up to a different thing. One thing that has been difficult in my life, I know, not so much 20 years, but I think going back 10 years in my life, I'm not anywhere close to the same person I was back then. And I've lost friends because of that.
And how do you feel about that?
You know, on one hand, it's sad, and the other hand, I'm grateful, you know. So how do you, maybe opening it up to other people, how do you change, you know, and move forward and leave behind some stuff or some people that don't want to come with you in the changes in your life that you're making? I think that can be really hard.
Well, that's kind of what's happening to me right now. Since I've been here, so many things have changed rapidly in my life. People that knew me 20 years ago, even 5 years ago, yet last year, can't believe the way my life's going right now. And I don't know if they judge it, but they just like, that's not who you are. Well, and I kind of get that, because, you know, there's been times I thought, well, like people that are serial killers, could you really change a person like that? They have to want to change. I know that's kind of a cliche or whatever. What's happened in my life, I've wanted to turn this around. Not that it was horrible, but it's much better. Much better. It
takes really courage to change, and I think sometimes people can look at someone who's really trying to better themselves and turn their past around, and maybe, for lack of a better word, you know, criticize you for not being the same person, but in reality they're really jealous because you had the courage to make those changes that maybe at their particular state in their journey they're not ready to make those yet themselves.
Yeah, that's a big thing too. People don't like change, even if it isn't their change. Watching somebody else that they've known around them change, because the energy is still different. But what's most important is your change for each of us.
But Matt hit on a big word, courage. And I'm not patting myself on the back or anybody that's changed. You really have to dig deep.
It does take courage.
I mean, you have to say, how bad do I want this?
I think when you're young, you know, you don't know, you know enough, you know, to pay your bills and get through life a little, but you don't know who you are, but you know it's something. And all these people, your family, your friends, they're defining who you are, right? And you're going, no, no, no. And as you're going, no, 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 that's not who I am, you're rejecting them. So you lose them, you slough them off. And then when you start to define yourself, like you are now, at whatever age, whatever time you decide to do it, it's empowering. And I think instead of looking back on negative things, look back at the victories in your life. Let those define who you are now, because you've been letting the negative things define who you were, right? And now we're going, this is who I am. And boy, look back on the good things and define yourself with that. It's about defining yourself, period.
Yeah.
And once you decide to do that for yourself and you're not afraid anymore because you're a little older, I could just be whoever I want to be. How freeing is that? How freeing is it to be
Huge.
older and go, well, I'm going to wear the same jeans I wore yesterday. You know what I mean? And who cares? So, and when you're younger, someone will go, oh, you had those on yesterday. You get older, nobody says a word. She's just an old woman, or she's getting older. Boy, it's
being
simple
economical.
Yeah,
Save with water.
Simple.
Right.
It's a simple thing.
And when you're talking about going to the past and looking at the negatives, that reminds me of how quick we can sometimes be to label ourselves and others that, I was fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
I am fill in the blank. And instead looking at those as those were experiences that we went through, because even the unpleasant ones brought me to where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when and I know I'm kind of bringing two topics in here together, but there's a reason why I'm tying them together. Because I know of others that still feel as though they're saddled with the past. It's like people make sure of the past and they're coming forward to remind people of who they were. Because that person, however it was just said here, with like the jealousy or whatever, because they haven't moved on. Maybe they're still in a healthy state, they're seeing somebody get healthy, or they're seeing somebody move on into like some great career, but yet they're still in a poorer part of town. So they want to like almost claw to keep the other person back down with them, and it's really kind of sad for them, though we can understand without judgment.
That's misery loves company.
It is, but it's also like-minded people who stick
Well,
together.
that's what Rick said. It takes such courage, because I know for years, I could, the contemplation, I was able to examine my life, point out things that I don't like, and I don't like the way they're working here. But doing that next step of actually implementing the change to change those, it was constantly, I'll start it tomorrow, I'll start it tomorrow, I'll start it tomorrow. But finally, within the last 6 months or so, I finally, you know what, I think I'll start that today. And taking that first step, that's what's really, truly, I think, terrifying for a lot of people. But my life really is in a greater place now, since I decided, okay, I'm going to go to that rehab facility, or in my case, I'm going to start seeing that therapist, and really start putting those pieces together. But I think it's just that first little step of, because it's so easy to say, I'll start tomorrow, I'll start.
Comfort, or we get comfortable where we are.
Oh yeah, when you've known a
I
certain.
agree, like
Yeah.
the way you said, when people are like, situations around you are present, you don't even think what is going wrong, you're just going with the flow. But as things start changing for you, you start realizing that how things are changing. Why is it changing? Why I'm feeling depressed? Others are happy. And if you try to take a step forward, taking that courage is a big thing, and then just one person may be standing behind you, maybe not, but there will be 10 people standing in front of you. Okay, this is not right. But that's the moment we need to understand that what is right for us. If we are happy, we can make others happy. If we are not happy, I don't care how the surroundings are then. If I'm not happy, I cannot make others happy. So the energy around us, if it's not positive, it's just a show of the positiveness, we cannot do anything. It's completely on us how we make it positive for us. That takes courage. That's for you it should be comfortable, not for others.
Well, and we can't make other people happy either, but we can, as we're exuding that happiness, then others around us are picking up typically, unless somebody is just so much in their stuff. It's hard not to be with you guys. Like, I love you guys. You know, and be here in the laughter that you guys don't get to see at home. You know, just the laughter, the camaraderie, the support, the love, the encouragement. And it just, yeah, you just kind of pick up on that. But yeah, it really is about you. You gotta do what's
Like,
good for you.
a few years back, my family, I had a joint family, and a lot of people together. The people of my age, like in my religion, when we go back, girls are not that forward to go out and work and do stuff. When I started doing it for me, for myself, for my happiness, there were people holding me back. Till date, they comment on me. But then, where I'm standing now, they cannot even think of it, what happiness I'm getting. So, now I'm a motivation for them. But then,
They were
not-
resisting then,
Right.
and now you're motivating them.
right. So,
Sometimes, yeah, people are kind of adjusting with us.
right. So the past and the future, if I go back to the past, okay, this things happened. If the same person come, okay, you did this. Okay, we need to go forward. Look for the present and the future instead of going at the past.
Yeah, and I think even honoring even the unpleasantness of the past, it's still part of who, you know, I was, part of each of our own experiences, again, that brought us to where we are today. And I guess I want to do this to kind of bring to mind that if any of us are kind of looking at, especially Facebook, you know how many of these people I haven't seen in 20 years? And it's like, boy, I remember you in middle school, like, whatever. I remember, you know, I don't know, you kicked somebody in the shins in 5th grade. You know what it's like?
Isn't that funny? Because those same people that you were maybe enemies with as a kid, now they're your best friend for some reason.
It's like,
You grow up
yeah.
Yeah.
and you move and you change.
Yeah, because so-and-so liked my boyfriend, so I couldn't like her back then, and life has just changed. But I think that, you know, if we can just take a moment, if we catch ourselves in the middle of judgment of somebody else's past, to remind ourselves that we too have had our own past. And I'm sure all of us too know the people that it seems like they still haven't grown. You know, that, you know, I'm gonna be 48. I know some people that still act like they're 16, but recognizing that that's their own path and journey, and I don't have to belittle them in order to make myself feel better about it. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I think the same thing can be said about relationships. I think that's why a lot of relationships might fail, is because one person is growing but the other person is kind of stuck in the past. And I know for a lot of people in relationships who's been together for 10, 20, 30 years, you really have to still constantly check in with each other and keep growing with each other, and you know, not hold your partner accountable for past mistakes. If what you're truly wanting is that long-term relationship, you still have to be present and check in with each other and let that other person know where you are and where you're standing, you know, and really be willing, I think, to put in that work to make it work.
Yeah, and even seeing with the work that we do here, it isn't uncommon that a couple, one will decide they'll start their awakening, they'll start their spiritual journey, and then the spouse just isn't interested in it. And I think it takes a lot of strength for the one that is embarking upon their newfound spiritual journey to not allow the other to kind of pull them back or hold them back from what's on their particular journey. Because even though we may be married, we still have our own soul that we are accountable for, too. Yeah. That's a very interesting take, and you're right, so many of us that we bring up, you know, the past in the middle of a fight or something.
I did that for a long time, even sometimes just in my mind with my husband, like, oh, like 30 years ago, you were mean, or, you know, and it's like, I finally, I don't know when, got over that, but yeah, it's like, well, you weren't really good to the kids and you don't remember how mean you were. And then I finally thought, well, maybe it was in my mind, you know, because he doesn't have the same memories I do.
It's
You
funny
know?
how that works, isn't it?
So, yeah, but,
Selective memory?
Different perspectives.
but it's like,
Yeah.
I think for a lot of my life, I probably thought that way and held grudges, and now, I mean, Soulspirational, Tish, everything is,
I love you.
you know, changed me inside so much. You know, and it started somewhat before that, because I've kind of been on the spiritual path for like 25 years at least, you know, just slowly. But yeah, I've held grudges and I feel bad about it, but I think I'm getting better, so.
You know what, and boy,
Yeah.
doesn't that make such a difference when you can say, I know that I'm getting better about this. And I'm just assuming here that you feel better by not holding the grudge anymore, because that's something you're holding on to.
Yeah.
I mean, secondary, yeah, when you're spewing it at him, it makes him feel bad too, but you're the one that's really sitting with it for the biggest majority of that time. And then to say, wow, like I don't need that.
So-
Yeah.
Something I'm learning as I get older, it takes so much more effort to hold a grudge or to not like someone or to hate someone or whatever than it does to see somebody's good points, because I think hate or dislike takes concentrated effort and concentrated reminding yourself why you dislike this person. That if you just let it go, let that past go, you would feel, like you said, feel so much better and so much lighter.
And then usually it's the mirror, that we talked about before. The why is it about, what is it about this person that I can't let go? You know, oftentimes I would argue too that we're not, on the surface we may say, you know what, I really am upset with this person. But when we stop and think about it, oftentimes it's because, you know, I'm upset with me.
That's the same thing about criticism. You know, you're criticizing these other people, but people have said it's really what you're criticizing about them is something that you
Or struggling
struggling
to.
like
Yeah.
with yourself. Yeah.
That mirror,
Yeah.
and it sucks. But it's so beneficial if we take, back to your word, back to responsibility.
Mhm.
And you know what, I think that most of us too, when we hear somebody say something derogatory about us, even if we just like, whatever, those are your words, I think we still, most of us sit with that and process, like, am I really the kind of person that they say? You know, kind of process like, oh, okay, well, you know what, there's a little bit of truth here. And if we look at that instead of just doing a process, let it go, or just look at it at the surface, like, okay, you know what, here's a little bit of truth in that statement, or maybe it's a big truth. And then what am I going to do with it? Kind of like you said earlier about taking that bird's eye view, you know, because by doing that too, the brilliant thing is you're depersonalizing when you take the bird's eye view.
Yeah.
Because you're looking down at it from a different perspective, and where things can change, evolve.
Yeah, you have to allow for your own mistakes. Allow for others to make mistakes. You know, that's it. If you really look back on what you would call most of the things you feel bad about in your life, you know, your current picture of it would be completely different than the picture you had of it when it happened. You know, it might not be as bad as you think it is, you know. You know, when you called someone a name in high school or something, I mean, look back at that now. How ridiculous does that look?
Right, right.
Or someone called you something. So what? Now you go, oh what? You know?
Right.
But at the time it was, you know, just,
It really faulted the person who took that and changed their life because of what you said, that seems foolish.
Yeah.
Not you saying something stupid as a kid or something impulsive.
Mhm.
The person that believed what you said about themselves, you gotta know who you are and what other people say just doesn't matter. I mean, I don't even process what people say about
He
me.
really doesn't.
I just, oh, okay, well,
You know.
whatever. You know, it doesn't, I don't let it affect the way I am. I can't. You know, as long as you're happy with who you are right now. I mean, I don't regret one bit of my life, not one second. And I've done horrible things, but I don't regret them.
Well, that's just
Because
totally
they've
who
helped,
you are.
they've changed other people's lives,
Mhm.
however they needed it changed, or I was here for a reason. You know, I don't regret living my life, and man, I lived it. You know, but I regret some of the consequences of my life. You know what I mean? The
Well,
way
you
I
have
lived
that,
it,
you know.
but what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I mean, I love it now, so, I
Good.
mean, you gotta love it. You gotta love your life and what you're doing, you know?
I
Even if
do.
it's nothing. You know, even if you're just,
Right.
It's just the way we look at the things.
Uh-huh.
That's our perspective, what we want to look at. Like if there is a glass of water, if we're like, okay, there's a glass of water and there's a glass of cold drink, it's our choice what we want. And if we mix it, it tastes nothing.
Yeah.
So it's completely on us. We want to mix negative and positive things, or we want to describe positive things.
Yep. All right. And we'll leave it on that beautiful positive note to reach forward, to grab the positive things. And I would just ask, you know, if we could continue to do that, looking at each other as well. Honoring those around us, what they've gone through too, even though we may not know what their stories are. How important, I missed something, how important it is to still honor one another.
I was looking at Rick.
Looking at the people around us.
Okay, and they're beautiful. I get to look at these beautiful, happy faces.
Looking at you, Rick.
I know, I saw that.
Thank you for watching today's episode of Awakening with Soulspirational. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at info@soulspirational.com. So until next time, thank you, be well, and namaste.